Dr. Ramesh Sepehrrad, you're an expert on Iran's politics. We had elections just over a month ago. Has the situation changed?
The situation when it comes to the Iranian people really hasn't changed as much, because Rouhani holds one of the highest record of human rights violations and execution in Iran from his previous term, and he's going in obviously with additional suppression and oppression against the Iranian people. But I think what's important about this particular election is the deepening of the conflict and what I call this schism between the various factions, which is represented by Khamenei on one side, that essentially is holding on to the hardline philosophy of supreme leadership and Velayat Faqih as a legitimate source of power in the country, versus Rouhani, who considers himself as the elected president, and there's this vying for power. What's interesting about this conflict is Rouhani was actually selected through a council and filtered by a council that's appointed by the supreme leader. So from that perspective, they essentially are weakening the entire structure of power in Iran with this political feuds and infighting that's happening, and opening up the space, more importantly, for the Iranian people, not by intention but by total accident here, for the Iranian people to rise up and really express their political views and their desire for freedom.
And what is the situation like for the Iranian opposition within Iran at this moment? Are there many factions? Do they agree with each other? Or is there a lot of infighting between them?
I'm not really sure about infighting amongst the opposition, because there is a clear line between where they stand versus the Iranian regime stands. I think there is definitely kind of a muddied of the water, some of it by design by Tehran to muddy the water and really silence the voice of the opposition. But one way of really understanding who the opposition is and who are the serious opposition in Iran is to really look at them as their claim for vision for Iran. Those who stand for democracy, popular vote, and really the public decision to define and determine their own government, and negate the concept of Velayat Faqih, the supreme leadership. That's one opposition. And those who, and within that context, obviously the ones that are more importantly focusing on the issue of equality, justice, more importantly on the gender equality and women's leadership. I think if you use that lens, you'll be able to understand who are the serious opposition movement. And what comes to mind, obviously, is the National Council of Resistance, and the primary member of that council is the PMY, and of course the fact that Mrs. Mariam Rajavi leads that entire coalition. When you kind of look at that as an opposition movement against a regime that has used Islam as a weapon against women, a weapon against its own citizen, you kind of see where the line is between where the opposition, real serious opposition, stands versus the Iranian regime.
The Iran deal, the nuclear deal as it's called, does promise dialogue between Iran and Western partners. Do you think that could help the progress towards democracy?
So I'm not really sure if the deal opened up a new opportunity for dialogue, because they've been in dialogue for how many years now? More than 3 decades. So I think there was a lot of hype about the Iran deal. That deal within itself, when it comes to the issue of nuclear, was not a complete deal. It didn't go far enough. But I think more importantly, as someone who's been advocating the issue of equality, the issue of human rights in Iran, if the West was in fact serious in dealing with Iran's threat in its entirety, they should have really made that deal beyond just a nuclear issue. It should have been about human rights, it should have been about women's rights, and it should have been about terrorism. But intentionally, during the Obama administration, they made it very, very limited, which quite frankly, it's more harmful to the process of effective dialogue. So I think this hype about dialogue with the deal, there is nothing to it. The real dialogue should be with the Iranian people.